Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 9. In May, we read Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. This happened to be one member's favorite book, which I can only describe as a darker, Harry Potter-esque type of read. A young man finds himself orphaned and must rely on his wits and skills to survive the wild, and schoolmates, and mystical terrors. Please keep listening and or watching if you're on YouTube, and get ready to hear some challenging review.
Hello and welcome to the Mess Hall Hangout. This is our monthly book club podcast episode, and thank you for being here. As you can see from the screen before you, this month's book was *The Name of the Wind* by Patrick Rothfuss. This book actually was one that I had submitted, and somebody else had also wanted pretty well. Squandy was super excited about it, but yeah. So happy you folks could be here to check us out. I'm going to hand it over to Annie just to do intros real quick, and then we'll go from there.
Hi, welcome to episode 9. Can you believe it's episode 9 already? Welcome to book club. We are joined today. We've got Squandy, who is feeling a little under the weather, but we're so happy that he's here. Kiki, and obviously Gendrid, and whoever's in chat, if you have questions, comments, please let us know. We do. I feel a little bit better about this episode. Gendrid has read the book so much that I think we have a better guide along the way for this episode. But I was very excited to read this book. And welcome to episode 9, Name of the Wind.
Yep, and we also have Kiki joining us.
I said Kiki, didn't I? I said Kiki and Gendrid.
She did.
Beautiful. I'm not screwing up. All right, so jumping right in. Quick summary. So this book is about a character named Kavoth. He's a young trooper of the Adimaru. We'll get more into what that means. And he has a very amazing childhood. He's surrounded by family made from loving parents, acrobats, actors, and an old arcanist that shows great promise and aptitude from learning and an unquenchable thirst for knowledge until a fateful day when everything is torn asunder and he is left alone. The Name of the Wind is the start of Kavoth's path to greatness. This is book 1 of 3. This story starts with his early childhood, and it goes on to his early terms at the greatest educational institution in their world. And we're going to ride alongside him and learn how he became Kavoth the King Killer and the early days that set him on his path to being a legend and a hero and so much more. Let's jump
so
right
it's
in.
Easy to say that this is probably one of your favorite books.
1000%. This is my favorite fantasy novel, and I've read fantasy is probably my top genre of books. Patrick Rothfuss weaves a really amazing story here. There's such good world building. The magic system in this is also amazing, and it's one of those things where a lot of fantasy novels sort of gloss over magic, and they don't really get too deep into it. But he sort of lays out the whole system of magic and how it works, except for the name of the wind and essentially the naming of things. But they even break it down so it's almost like a scientific part, where he talks about how you can tie these two objects together with magic, and when you lift one, you're actually lifting both, and you can feel it because the one you're lifting feels twice as heavy or 3 or 4 times as heavy depending upon certain circumstances. The depths they go to in all of this, that's just the magic piece, but there's so much more, and it really sort of sets this world stage. And I don't know, there are other books that do this well. This is just my favorite.
I agree. I wanted to know more. I definitely wanted to know more of the system and how it works, and why the things are called the things. like when he starts learning from Ben,
Mm-hmm.
right? That was his mentor, Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um, that was so fascinating to me. And it kind of made me, those first couple chapters when we get introduced to Ben, and then uh, Ben, is it the night that Ben leaves is when
No,
tragedy strikes?
no, it's after that. It's a little ways after that, but it is after he leaves the troop. But
Right.
it's
So
probably like
those,
I want to say a couple weeks afterwards.
it was like those couple chapters when I was reading them, I think I messaged you or I put something in the chat where I was like, I think like I'm kind of getting misty.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was, I just love Ben as a character. He's one of my favorites. I wish we had more of him.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he left the troop. But yeah, I think Ben was one of my favorites, and so Eddie actually had this book in Audible already,
Mm.
and he's like, "Oh, you're reading Name of the Wind." We actually started. We got like 8 chapters in, and then it was a road trip, so I fell asleep. Um, but that's not to say the book isn't interesting. I just fall asleep as the passenger.
Yeah, in cars
uh,
as a passenger, it's easy to fall asleep for sure.
so this is also like one of the first books for the book club that I've actually, in general, that I've only listened to. I didn't actually have the physical copy, so that was a new thing for me because I like to have the physical copy. But the the one hang up
Okay.
that I guess I have hang up issue with the book is where, so I had this idea in my mind where it was like a grown up Harry Potter kind of story, in the
Okay.
sense that it's like he's he's a he's a poor boy and he goes to magic school.
Very much similarities there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I'm into it. I really enjoyed Harry Potter. But then as I'm getting into the book, like what really grabbed me was the beginning and the end, but the meat in the middle. Now that's not to say he's not a bad author. Like he writes really well, but I just kept thinking like I just got annoyed how Quoth, our main character, was very, I'm the smartest in the room. I know everything. I'm trying to buy a horse and I don't want to be swindled and the guy doesn't know that I'm an expert in picking out perfect horses. And I was like, Christ, guy, like calm down. We get it.
It's very true. There are a lot of things that Kavoth like knows, right? And obviously he's like, yeah, well, I grew up with a traveling troupe. That means we are nomads and we know a lot about horses because we have to, right? So I get that particular angle. But there's other places where he just falls so flat on his face. Like he obviously doesn't know a thing about women. He has so much trouble with every woman he comes into contact with, and he doesn't realize half of them are flirting with him, and he doesn't realize like when he's like overstepped. It's like, and then to top it off, like I'm getting way ahead of myself. He goes on to make some fantastic enemies just because he feels like, oh yeah, well I'm smarter than them. Yeah, maybe so, but these are people who could still ruin your life, so maybe not fucking piss off everybody.
He has, yeah, like when it comes to his intelligence, it's the like non-humbleness to a certain extent, and I'm just like,
yeah.
calm down, guy. Like, okay, we get it.
There's a lot of self-confidence.
Well,
Self-assuredness.
like I think it's a lot. Here's the thing: is like Kavoth knows what he knows, right? To mean if he shows up at magic school, well, our good friend Ben had already taught him like a whole boatload of like arcana
Basic
stuff to begin
stuff,
with, right?
yeah.
So he knew it. He walked in the door already having pretty much the whole, like, I don't know what to equate it to, first semester pretty much in the bag. Like, so when they treated
Enough
him,
to shame the teacher.
Well, the teacher was a dumbass, so that's
Yes,
a different
true.
problem entirely, right? Like, if the teacher had just done a couple of simple things, it would have gone completely different. But the teacher was fucking... The thing
Rude.
I'm trying to say is, like, there are times when Kvoth, like, is very much, you know, he's lauded from a very young age as being very smart. He learns things very quickly, and like there's this conversation early on where Ben is talking to his parents, and he's like, "How early did he learn the lute? You know, is there anything he's really ever struggled with?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, he struggled with the lute early on." And his mom's like, "Yeah, well, he was 4 and his hands weren't big enough, so that's not really his fault." It's like, oh, so no, he's never really struggled with anything. Got it, right? Like he really is just.
I think
he's a
it
genius.
would have, yeah, it would have been better, at least for me, to like see him be humbled. And you can argue that I guess he kind of was, like, with his conflicts with Ambrose and stuff, but like
no.
even then he wasn't humble. Like, no, never mind. I take that back.
No, and like, okay, so we're definitely getting way ahead, but I think we haven't seen his failures, right? And I this is what really, like, I'm gonna get ahead of myself here, but he continues to have some success in the second book as well. He does have some failures there, but not a ton of them. I expect we're going to see some serious great failure in the third book that's not out yet, because we know from the very beginning of this book that he's hiding in a freaking tavern in the middle of nowhere. Nowhere. He's like, he's obviously fucked up somewhere along the way to be hiding out and waiting in the middle of nowhere just to die. Like,
True.
His world is, like, obviously not all the fantastic things that he had hoped it would be. And I think that's what keeps me interested. It's like, yeah, he's smart. Yeah, he grasps things very quickly. Like, he moves up the ranks at the Arcanum very quickly. He makes some really good friends. He, you know, like, he always seems to find success in the most interesting ways. But he's also, you know, abjectly poor for most of it. Like, so despite being very smart and being very skilled, very rarely does he have any money. Even at the very end of this book, he finally comes into some money, but, like, you know, he's going to have to pay the Arcanum. He has to buy a new loot. There's, like, all this stuff that we know he's going to have to pay immediately, so he's going to be broke again. And I think that's where we kind of see one of his failings is just he doesn't have the money, the monetary situation that he needs to survive in this world. And I'll say one thing. His time in Tarbean was a really difficult time. He was pretty much, like, beat to shit and kicked around most of the time he was there. He did get one over on the one boy, right? And he did get to actually interact with Scarpy there, which, again, getting ahead of ourselves. But the rest of the time, he gets beat up. At one point, he goes to Trappist because he's, like, so beat up that he just can't, like, even take care of himself. Like, he's sick. Like, I think that was a very hard section for me to read through, like, every time, just because seeing, like, being poor sucks. Like, especially, you know, he loses his parents. You know, he loses Ben because Ben goes away to his, you know, retirement, his ideal retirement, and he's left to, like, do what? He struggles. So, starting back at the very beginning of the outline, the book starts with Coat, the innkeeper. And Coat is a mild-mannered, red-haired man who runs an inn in the middle of nowhere. I love that name. And essentially, he's young for an innkeeper, and people take note of that. He's also not from nowhere, and people take note of that as well. But He does well for he takes care of people. Like, he doesn't make waves, which is I want to highlight that. He doesn't make waves in nowhere. He's here. He's just hiding out, and he plays the part of an innkeeper. So much so that we see, like, later, in later parts where he's talking to the local blacksmith. He's like, hey, if you see, that so-and-so family coming around, tell them I want some more mutton, because he knows that they're on hard times. He's trying to help in little ways that he can, because he has a little bit of money, it seems, and he's not doing too bad for himself here, but he is, in a sense, hiding, right? And he has his assistant, right, that we know as Bast. And Bast is just this lovely young man, also not from nowhere, who's dazzled all the ladies, and
he's so handsome.
He's so handsome, right? And then out of nowhere comes Chronicler, right? Chronicler is an author in this world. He's a writer, and he's quite literally just going about his way, trying to just capture stories from around the world and document them. And I like the whole cyclical part about how, like, we actually refer to a book that he's written several times throughout this book, which is interesting. But he essentially gets robbed and on the way to nowhere. And he's on his way to nowhere because he heard a rumor that Kvothe was there.
And everybody knows Kvothe as, like, his his story is what, he's the king killer?
He's the king killer, which we don't quite know what that means yet. I still don't know what that means. He's also the Bloodless, the Arcane.
Yep.
And
Many titles.
He has so many titles because he's made a name for himself in the world, and this is partly by choice, right? Because he is of the Ademaru. He likes to have, he likes to be the subject of legend, right? This is something he had dreamed of as a child. He wanted to be like the legendary
Tamerlane the Great, right?
No, Tamerlane the Great gets talked about a lot, but he wanted to be like the famous trooper. Like there's a legendary trooper or whatever. Like the Ademaru legend, whatever character that is when he goes to the Arcanum and they're like, who's the greatest person in the world, and he says this like Ademaru character figure, but he wants to be legend. He wants to be famous. He doesn't really like. He doesn't say that anywhere early on, but you can tell like he sees greater ambition in his life, and he wants to go to the Arcanum before the shit hits the fan. But all that to say, yes, the townspeople know of Kvothe, but nobody knows that he is Kvothe except for Bast. And now Chronicler shows up. He's like, "Oh shit! Oh,
you're the
here.
guy.
It's you. Interesting. Okay, let's. Can I get your story since I'm here?" And Kvothe is like, "Sure, let's do that. Let's talk about this. I would love to have my story actually written in some form of truth, because while Kvothe has done a great job of spreading rumors about himself, many of them are untrue, right? Because like it helps him gain fame, but also many things that other people saw and spread, and so he wants a record of his actual life, of what actually happened. And so that's where we start, the story within the story. And so we learned about his childhood with the Ademaru. The Ademaru, again, is a nomadic group of people. They don't have a town or a home. They travel. They are much like a traveling carnival.
Like what do they say? A troubadour
gypsies.
group?
Yeah, yep. But troopers. They're troopers. And that's what they would call themselves. Many of us who think of like D&D or whatever would think they're like a group of bards, and that is another similarity they could be considered. But they're troopers.
That's right.
And they are.
And
They're almost like gypsies in our, as you would think of them in our nomenclature.
And they
What were you saying?
have a benefactor
Yep.
who is funding their travels.
Lord Greyfallow. Yep. So
Yes.
Lord Greyfallow is the benefactor of his parents' troop, and it's his parents' troop. It's his mom and dad's troop. They run it. They make the decisions. They make the deals. They essentially they decide where they go. It's his parents' troop, and they serve Lord Greyfallow, and that opens doors for them because he's not some tiny lordling. He's an actual established person of the nobility, and it opens doors for them that they wouldn't normally have been able to open. And we learn that his mother is of noble birth. His mother was part of the nobility somewhere. We don't quite know where from this book. And his father stole her heart and whisked her away. And so we know
Now she's part of the troop.
now. I mean, she is a Dumaru now as well because she's part of the troop. She's of the one family. We also learn of the Waystones, the Waystones being the giant stones that they stop at along the way because they are markers of old highways and thought to be good omens. And so the scene settles upon them pulling into a town, and they are the town councilman comes out and he's like, "No, get out of here. We don't want y'all here. Whatever."
Yeah,
You know,
the last
group that
time
came
troubadours.
in, yeah, exactly. They came in, they tore up the hall. The hall belongs to the town. We can't have that. I don't trust y'all not to do that. I'll give you each a penny. Get the fuck out of here. I mean, that's pretty much how he treats them. And like Kavoth is like standing to the side. He's like, "What the fuck? Like, do you not know who we are?" Like, you can see his cockiness early on, right? But he doesn't say that out loud. But he gets upset.
He's always like eavesdropping as a
Right?
young child.
A very bad habit. And he hears his father sort of like work the man over. He's like, look, fine. We'll be on our way. I'll make sure Lord Greyfallow knows that we were such a burden upon you, whatever. And the guy's like, who? No.
Lord who?
You can have the hall. You can use it. It's fine. It's like he quickly does his about turn after like talking to the local, another local councilman or whatever. I think the town, like whatever they call the local policing force. But
Has
while
the
this
small
is happening,
meeting.
yeah. But while this is happening, Kvoth like sees his other cart on the other side of like the square, essentially like that has already been sort of like shooed away by the local council people. They're like, "Look, we don't need none of your witchcraft." He's like, "I'm not a fucking witchcraft. What is like?" He's like, "I sell herbal remedies. Like I'm here to help." He's like, "What the fuck? Don't y'all know what a real sympathist is? What an arcanist is?" And they're like, "Get out of here." And then they treat him like shit. And then they're like threaten to put him in chains because he's talking back to them. And Ben suddenly whispers, and a great wind swoops in and pushes the two gentlemen back. Not heavily, but pushes them back and lifts the cart a little. And the donkeys kind of stir a little, and from that moment, Kavoth is hooked. He's like, "What is this? What did I just see? What was that?" Right? And we see.
I need to be an arcanist now.
He's like, "You did magic.
Magic.
I want to know magic. What was that?" And
All of the terms in this book, it's like a little bit different too. So it's like, if you're a magician, you're an arcanist, and then magic is what, sympathy is what they call it.
That is one form of magic,
right?
So the most common form of magic in this world is sympathy, and it is primarily one of two things. They use sympathetic bindings, which is where they essentially know how to use certain phrases to make things work. They're sympathetic bindings for binding, stones together or binding different things together. They're sympathetic bindings for pretty much like most of what we would call physics, right? All different types of things related to physics. And so that's really like the basis of most magic in this world. Most people don't run around screaming the name of the wind, right?
It's so thought out too, where it's not just like, oh, they can just cast whatever magic thing, and like they can control like a rock moving, or so there's a lot more to all of it than like I'm gonna compare it to Harry Potter, where they're just
Go
like
ahead.
Accio wand, or Accio teapot. Like there's more to it than just saying the words and getting what you want.
Correct. And we
Oculus Reparo.
At this point, like Kavoth becomes enamored with Ben because he's seen something he doesn't understand, right? Like, and our young genius wants to understand everything, right? And so he's like, look, I can tell you're having a hard time. We could actually use someone like you in the troop. I'm just going to say, why don't you join us? He's like, you can do that? He's like, it's my parents' troop, but it's kind of my troop, but it's really theirs. But I'm just going to say, welcome in. And he's like, he makes a deal right there on the spot. And of course his parents approve because it's not a bad deal. An arcanist can, like we learn right there, a lot of stage performers die a young age from using like bad makeup made from things that are toxic that can kill you. Well, a lot of people use that kind of stuff because it's part of their job or whatever. And so like Ben helps out in a lot of ways. And in the meantime, he also begins teaching young Kavoth everything. He teaches him everything. He doesn't just teach him sympathy. He teaches him history. He teaches him politics. He teaches him like he gives him a well-rounded education. Ben is taking this not as just I'm going to teach you how to be.
Hey there, mister.
He teaches him.
Hey there, mister.
Everything. Hi, Hambalam. Welcome in, dude.
Hey.
We're talking about The Name of the Wind, my favorite fantasy novel. This was this month's book of the month.
This week, could you imagine?
This week, I mean, I could read it in a week, but I don't recommend it. It's a lot. It is a lot. But I love that aspect too, right? He doesn't just like give him magic and then disappear.
Right.
Wild,
like you
right?
can't just willy-nilly fix your glasses or turn into a cat,
Right. And he also
there's substance.
He also goes through like we see this sort of witty banter back and forth where like Ben, sees him often as an impetulant, very impatient child and treats him as such. And I love that. Ben doesn't just do whatever he wants. He's like, no, you're gonna learn this properly. He makes him learn it properly.
He challenges him, and I think maybe that's why I like Ben as a character, because he doesn't. To me, Kvoth doesn't feel challenged until Ben comes around.
Sure, I would agree with that. And I think Ben is a catalyst, right? So Ben is a catalyst for Kavoth, because if Ben hadn't come along, Kavoth would have just gone on to be another trooper, or pretty much, or died in his parents' caravan or whatever. But Ben is a catalyst. He is the winds of change for this young child's life.
The winds of change, you say?
Oh, nice. Ooh, I like that. Okay, that was good. And while this is happening, we learn that Kavoth's parents, his dad in particular, writes songs. He's not just a performer. He's not just a traveling troupe manager. He also creates new types of songs because he is the ultimate performer, really. And we learn that he is trying to research the story of Lanray. Lanray being a very, well-known figure in their history, but also the details aren't really clear.
It's
And so-
like
Go ahead.
it's like I guess I would compare it to like a biblical story.
Yeah.
You know?
Very much so. Like, what if we, we're trying to find out more about Alexander the Great? Sure, people know he existed and a lot of things that happened, but he wants to know the real story, what happened, and make
The
it
nitty
into a
gritty.
song.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is what Arladin does. That's his father's name, Arladin. Arladin seeks out these songs. He goes and talks to people in every town, and that's part of the beauty of being these nomadic people. They can go and gather stories and put them together into these works of art. And so we see this scene where Arladin is asking Ben about Lanray and the Chandrian. Dun, dun, dun. We've talked about the Chandrian. He wants to know, is it really 7 of them? Where they come from? Why? And
who are they? Nobody at this point, nobody knows anything except all of these wild stories, and nobody's been able to pin
Blue
them down.
fire and stuff all these stories about the Chandrian exist, and everybody fears them. But why? What's the deal? And this is really what piques Arladin's curiosity. And we learn right then and there that there's something to this, because when Arladin starts asking questions and all that, Ben's very honest. He's like, I'll tell you what I know. Yes, there's definitely 7 of them because it's the name. It's in the names. The 7 is actually the Chandrian means 7 of them. It's that's easy. They're like, okay, cool. And then they talk about all the different signs, the blue fire and all that stuff. And then the names, and Ben's like, whoa, we're not going to talk about the names. And they're like,
Right.
really, Ben? We thought you're a learned dude. You're going to be all scared of some words.
Now we're not going to talk about it.
He's like, no, you can write them down. We're just not going to say them out loud because there's power in names. And we're like,
Yeah.
What does that mean? And this again plants a seed into what are we after? And then we get to the next part where, as you mentioned, Ben departs. Ben stumbles into an offer that he just cannot refuse. A better trap could not be laid for him, where a widow, the widow of a local, what are they called? The beer maker, whatever. Her husband died, and now essentially their business is in badly need of someone who can take over his tasks. This is perfect for Ben. He's like, I've got this. He's been brewing alcohol since he left the Arcanum. He's like, I'm down. But this also means, Ben is leaving the troop, and they throw this grand, amazing party for him, and he gives Kvothe a book that suggests he go to the Arcanum when he wants to depart from his troop, and it's very much a sad departure because Ben was very pivotal. As we said, he was a catalyst in Kvothe's life. And then we settle upon
I forgot what happened. They send Kvothe out into the woods to gather something or
so the next
cool
thing that
down
happens,
or
the next thing that happens is that they are, as it happens normally, Kvothe has 2 very loving parents, and oftentimes loving parents who share a freaking wagon with their child need him to depart sometimes so that they can be loving, right? And
do adulting.
right? They can get down to the nitty gritty. And essentially, his mom's like, "Can you go find some herbs that would be really good in the pot tonight, please? Just try and find us something. And if you can't find that, maybe find some of this." She gives him a tour, and he knows. He's like, okay, I know very well if I come back with nothing, they'll be fine. They just want me out of their hair. And that's cool.
I just need to be occupied.
Hambalam says power and names is a theme in Hellblade 2 as well, which I watched Unrelented play today. Dude, I missed that play. I was in the car all day. Damn it! I hope I can catch that vibe.
It's such a beautiful game. Like,
Annie,
stunning.
can you give Unrelented a shout out, please? And Ham.
Oh, also,
yeah.
the brewers
go
are
ahead,
called
Kiki.
the Bentley. The brewers are called the Bentleys.
The Bentleys? No. The family is called the Bentleys.
Oh, the Bentleys are the famous name. I'm trying to remember what.
The
What was it
brewer,
called?
yeah, I forget what the actual.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the actual name. Couldn't remember.
It's okay. I mean, people know what we're talking about. We're talking about like.
Yeah.
There's a word for it. I just can't think of it.
Yeah,
But
continue.
Kvoth is sent off to gather some herbs for the pot.
Some nonsense.
Right? And folks, if you're hanging out watching, Hambalam is an awesome, amazing streamer. He hasn't streamed in a minute, but when he does, it is truly a beautiful thing. I love hanging out with him. He was one of those people that always sort of excited me to stream. Please just
partner.
go drop him a follow. I'd appreciate
Hey, partner.
it. And Craig is here. Hey, Craig. We're talking about talking about the name of the whale.
Ham is also like a super good drummer.
Yeah, Ham is an amazing.
Best I've ever seen.
Speaking of troopers, right? Musicians, right?
Musicians, yeah. We are in the midst of a great drummer this evening, folks.
I hope that we can see more drum streams someday, but I know they're on hiatus for now. Okay, so
Back to the story.
Back to the story.
He is
Continue.
off collecting nonsense.
off collecting nonsense, right? He's off in the woods, just looking for whatever berries and herbs that might be good in the pot, and just generally doing young boy things in the woods, right? And he returns after some time, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, and the place is on fire. All the carts are a wreck, and like he immediately goes into shock because like his world is literally on fire. All he sees people that he knows and love, and they're just cut to pieces. Some of them are half fallen into their own campfires. He stops and tends to one of the fires. He's in so much shock. He's like, he just goes into autopilot, and he's like, trying to. He sees that somebody's dinner is burning, and he's like, starts stirring the dinner in the pot. He's like, he's at a loss
To do. So, yeah, so.
So he
Talk about
This was
timing
such-
too, with like him leaving and not being a part of that. Is, he
Yeah.
survived because he wasn't there.
Well,
Lucky.
Yeah,
Oh.
we'll see, right?
Yeah,
I don't know if
yeah,
he's
yeah.
lucky or not. Maybe if his life,
Sure.
if he's waiting in an inn to die, maybe dying with his parents would not have been the worst thing ever, right?
That's true. That's true. We'll have to see later on.
So he eventually makes his way to his parents' wagon, and he finds a group of people there sitting around his parents' campfire. And he's like, he's as usual eavesdropping when he sort of walks up to it, and he's like being very quiet, just his normal self, but he touches part of one of the wagons, and it just the metal just rusts away under his hand, and the wagon sort of just almost falls on him, but he's he sort of falls over and stands up, and these people, if we'll call them that, see him. And at first, one of them jumps up with a sword thinking he's somebody about to attack them, and as soon as they see it's a young boy, they're like, "What's this?" And one of them says, what are you doing? Is this your parents' campfire? And he's like, he like sort of nods weakly, and they're like, well, someone's parents have been singing all the wrong kind of songs, and like at that point, we think he's about to get skewered by a swordsman, with like black eyes, and somebody to the side goes, quit fucking with the kid. I don't remember his exact wording. He's like, you need to stop playing with him. Like this, we're not here to mess with kids. That's not what this is about. And you see this gentleman wrapped in shadow, cloaked in shadow, sort of like admonish the swordsman, and so much so that he uses what looks like magic to sort of bend him to his will. He's like, who do you serve? He's like, I serve you. And like he says it weakly. He's like, who do you serve? So we see there's this power play within this group. And then they look to the sky, and they're like, they're coming. And he's like, to me! And like all the people come to him, and he wraps them all up in shadow, and they disappear. And at this point, we're left with Kvoth sitting, standing near, I think he'd fallen over on the ground. He was like near his parents' campfire, and he sees that their wagon is on fire too. And so he sort of like goes back into autopilot mode, and he like jumps in there, and like he tries to find, some stuff that, he wants his book. He treasures certain things. He grabs his father's loot. But he doesn't know if these people are coming back to kill him or what. So he gets his shit and he runs, and he heads off.
What,
into the
he
woods.
leaves with the loot and the book
The loot
that Ben
and the
gave
book,
him.
and I think like a couple other small things. Nothing big, right? He just like barely enough to survive with. And he's off into the woods, and we fall upon him at that point, just surviving in the woods. He's like he doesn't know what to do. He's a lost child. For all the genius fucking bullshit talent that he has, he's a lost child in the woods. Really, he remembers way back in the back of his head the woodsman skills that he was trained by one of the people from the troop. And they taught him how to track. They taught him how to set a trap for small game. They taught him like essentially all sorts of stuff. And so he immediately sets about making sure that he can at least survive. So he's got enough. He finds a stream that's clean, so he's got enough water. He sets a trap for a rabbit. It catches a rabbit pretty quickly, and then when he goes back, he realizes that he doesn't have the heart to kill it. I mean, after seeing so much death, he really doesn't. But he sets another trap that will kill the rabbit for him. And then he, realizing he's now got his immediate needs taken care of, he's sort of left without anything to do. And his brain is a fucking wash of shock still. He doesn't even think about what happened to his troop or anything. He's still like on autopilot in many ways. So he sits down and starts playing his father's lute in the woods, just to do something. And
Keep high, yeah.
Right. Just to keep moving his fingers and his breath, and eventually a lute string breaks, and he learns to play without it. And then another lute string breaks, and he learns to play without it. And then another lute string breaks, and he can't play. There's not enough strings left. Like he can't play a lute with only, I think it was 3 strings, whatever. It doesn't work. The sound is not correct. And so he realizes he has to do something. He has to leave the forest. That he doesn't know the world. He hasn't really like studied geography that well. He doesn't really know where he is. And so he sort of just looks for a road and starts walking. He needs to find a place that can sell him lute strings. That's all he really cares about right now.
This is also like the compared to him at the end, or like at the end of his story of himself. This is his lowest low.
Yeah.
Where it's like the contrast of him being such a cocky shit.
Oh yeah.
So I guess I get surprised where he like dude, where do you get this attitude? If you've come from this such humble beginnings.
True, but at the same time, he's a survivor, right? Like, even though he was in the woods with nothing but his father's loot and a book, he was never in any real danger there. Like, he was just bored, right?
Yeah.
And he didn't really face them down. He met the Chandrian and survived. How many people can say that in this world? Probably not many, right?
Why
Just
do you
a very
think,
complex character.
Why do you think that they didn't kill him though?
I don't know.
Because what was his name? The one that like toyed with him, just like he should have just stood up and killed him. Like if you're thinking about like that whole like, well, somebody should have just shot Hitler, right? Well, if he just stood up and killed Kvoth right there instead of like playing with him, so his own hubris, right, got the better of him, which caused God, what is his name? Lanray becomes, can't remember his name, but essentially the hooded figure gets tired of his games and he's like, fuck, what are you fucking doing? Like, we're not here for this shit. And we're here to make sure that people don't know about us, and people continue to not know about us, and you're just fucking playing with a child. Like, quit it. And at that point, they are chased away by something else, and we don't know really what at that point.
And so like that is pretty much his introduction to these mythical Chandrian.
Yeah, and they try really hard to erase any evidence of their existence too.
So essentially, it would not do for them to have Arliden write this incredibly amazing, memorable song about them. It would go against everything they're trying to do. So killing him was like pretty much a done deal, and killing anybody in the troop who might have heard it.
Because it kills like any spread of knowledge on them too. You know, they have to kill people to keep that from happening.
But like, remember back to the conversation that Ben was having at the campfire with Arliden and Larian. You know, everybody has their own demons and you know, Shamblemen, you know, different sort of mythological type, you know, creatures that they're scared of or whatever in different parts of the world. You know, in America we have the, you know, and not America, but like we have the boogeyman, we have like Sasquatch, we have Baba Yaga in Russia. Like there's these, like every area has their own sort of mythology and stuff that they talk about and they're scared of and whatever. But the Chandrian are universal. Everybody fears the Chandrian. And that's like something sort of unique because it lends more credence to what Arliden's trying to do.
Sure.
I just thought like they would have slaughtered him.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
I mean, then it wouldn't be much of a story, right?
That's true. Our story would have ended already.
But
Right?
they don't want people knowing about them, so yeah, like why didn't they just kill him?
So then we see...
And then he
hold on.
Aaron.
Go ahead.
I love you.
Go ahead. If I'm saying something wrong, please correct me.
No, you're not saying anything wrong. I'm just saying that normally 99% of the time we agree on stuff. and I have been. So I'm just going to reset the conversation here, just because I want to get my thoughts out a little bit. I have been told to read this multiple times from people that I like. It's reviewed really well, and I didn't like it very much. I didn't like the book very much.
And now Gendred leaves.
No, see,
End
I
of
totally
podcast.
love and respect Squandy's opinion. I want to know more.
Me too.
So I agree with Annie in that I really found the very beginning interesting and the very end interesting, and the middle where we are being, where we're being told a story through his eyes, largely plotless. I really did not like him as a character, and I ended up siding with people that would become his enemy because I just wanted him to get knocked down a peg and to shut up for a second. I'm not feeling good, so I'm gonna be a little brash, but
You're fine, dude.
It from the very beginning, it's very beautifully written. So I'll start off with the things that I really liked. I think that Patrick Rothfuss is a good writer. I think he has good prose. I've really liked the very beginning of like the opening in 3 parts or whatever, or however it
The
starts,
silence
and then
of
the
3 parts,
ending.
yep.
The ending kind of mirrors that. I think that's a good writing technique, and his prose are really good. I do think that the concept, the structure of hearing a hero's recanting of his tale, interesting. I think that's an interesting concept. Let's see. I liked Elodin. Elodin, I think, was probably the one character that I really, really liked, even though they were kind of peripheral. They actually kind of stood out as an individual to me. And, and then as a plus, he got Quoth to jump off a building, so that was always a plus in my book.
Yeah.
Even though, to me, Quoth was never believable as a child, the stuff in Tarbian was actually pretty good. I actually did like how he used his intelligence and resourcefulness through that part. And that's pretty much the stuff that I liked.
That's totally valid. Like I can't argue with any of that because like it's your opinion and I think it's great. Like I think
It also gives like other perspective where it's like, here's a book that's so widely praised.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it is. It
Yeah.
is well reviewed because like I think, a lot of people don't dig that deeply into the characters. I think y'all are totally spot on. I don't disagree with what Annie or Squandy is saying because I think Kavoth is very brash and he's an asshole to a lot of people, right? And he's very smart mouth. Like I for one was like the first time I read it, I was like I did not expect him to actually get into the Arcanum the way he acted and everything. I was like these people are gonna fucking laugh him out. Let's see what happens next.
It doesn't matter. Everything works out for him. Everything. It doesn't matter because there's always a Deus Ex Machina of a crisis. Like you were just saying, his parents just died. He needs to run away and survive in the forest. That is a huge point for character growth. Oh, too bad. He already learned how to do all that. He's an expert at that. Okay, great. What else? Every time he comes into a struggle, it's solved. He already knows how to do that.
My
by the way.
my 7-string lute just popped one of its strings, but I can just, play with 6 instead of 7. So
I'm sorry, I got really entranced just watching
oh, tie these knots.
Yeah, the knots.
Sorry. These
So
are. It's
I
called
do
French
agree, though.
knots.
I don't think Quoth is really challenged, and like there's so many plot holes, especially early in the book. I think I don't necessarily I don't love Quoth as a character. I like.
I actively hate him. It's
I
so
like-
much so that as much as the ending intrigued me, there is no way you could pay me $1,000. I will not read the second book.
That's fine.
He is so insufferable. And my theory is that he is a self-insert. That somebody really hurt Patrick Rothfuss, and he wants people to think of him as a genius, know-it-all, never do wrong, lady swindler, and it's just a pure
Lady
self-insert.
swindler.
Like one of my favorite parts of the book was when he straight up gets kicked out of the university. They're like, raise a hand, how many lashings he's gonna get, and if he gets kicked out. And they're like, he's like, if I get kicked out of the university, my life is over. And I'm like, okay, cool. What's gonna happen? I bet he doesn't get kicked out. I bet he doesn't. Oh, I bet he doesn't. And then he goes, they all raise their hands, and I got kicked out. My life is over. And I was like, fuck yeah, dude.
And then you read
Fuck
the
yeah.
next
And then I
sentence.
turned the page,
Yep.
and the next chapter is, and then they told me, actually, JK, you're not actually kicked out. I'm like, dude, are you fucking serious? Jesus Christ.
You're so funny.
It's so annoying.
Me too.
And even my first inkling of this is even at the very beginning when he's hiding. Because at first I was like, okay, at least cool, secretive Batman Kavoth, hiding out is interesting. So maybe he does get humbled. Maybe at one point in the story, someone is like, dude, sit the fuck down. You don't know everything. And just like sit down and shut up for a second.
The only character that can do that has done that was Ben, and Ben is gone.
True.
Like,
I mean,
Ben gave him all these Deus Ex Machinas. Anything that they can do in the story, they can just say, Ben taught him that. Oh yeah, this guy taught him that. He needs to ride a horse 70 fucking miles on one horse. Oh, by the way, he's an expert horse rider. Like, fuck off, dude. You need to learn something. And then, yeah, sure, the teacher's an asshole. But if I'm in that classroom and the teacher's like, you know what, Kavoth, you teach the class, and he just gets up and does it, I'm in the class going, dude, sit the fuck down. I don't want to learn from you. I don't care if this teacher's an asshole. Sit the fuck down. You're a student. You're a student. There's no reason for him to be a genius other than for him to have no plot throughout the whole story. And like the fact that his one downfall is like women is like, okay, but all women are fawning over him. The only reason women exist in the story are to be fawned over him or to be saved. And it's like, there's just
What
no
about
point to it at all.
Debbie. Was that her name? I kept calling her Debbie.
But she tends to fawn over him too. In this.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Like the moneylender Debbie enjoys his company, and
she flirts with him. She wants him to like spend some time with. She's definitely fawning over him. She falls in that same group.
So yeah, right at the very beginning, it was my first inkling that I was like, something I don't know about this. And it was when he meets the chronicler and he's hiding out. He doesn't want people to know who he is, where he is. He's hiding out. And then this guy's like, oh, I'm the chronicler. I write a bunch of stories about people. And he's like, well, just so you know, I've done all this stuff. I've slayed dragons, and I don't write a story about me. Don't do that. Please don't. And he's like, no, please let me write a story about you. Please. And he's like, well, if you must, okay, fine. You can write a story about
but it will.
And then I'm
take
like,
3 days.
okay, bro, if you're trying to be cool and mysterious, then be like, no, don't you fucking dare write a story about me. And like, I don't even care if there's lies, and I want to set the record straight. You want to set the record straight because you're fucking, you're full of yourself, dude, and you have been full of yourself. And I'm waiting for the whole story for someone to put him in line. But what happens is I end up cheering when he gets kicked out of the fucking thing. When he gets kicked out of the university, I'm like, yes, he actually needs to struggle for once. And it's like, just because his parents died, everything else needs to be easy for him. Like, he can't even be poor difficult. He's poor, and then he's like, well, I play the lute perfect, and I'm just gonna play this contest and win a bunch of money, so that's cool. And like, the people cry over his songs, like, dude, shut up. Dude, stop telling me how to feel. If you want me to cry over this dude's song, write a very compelling paragraph. Don't just say, and then everyone wept because I played the lute so good. Dude, shut up. I don't care about you, dude. Go sit down. Go sit down in the back of the room.
Aaron
I don't want to
is
hear about
Ambrose.
your story. I totally am Ambrose. When he gets there and he's like, I want to go into the whatever and read all the books. Oh, dude, I have so many examples. So he goes in there and he goes,
Oh my God.
I want to read the books. And Ambrose is like, let me guess, you're a troubled teen who fell down some bad luck and you traveled a bunch of miles over here. And like, he gives him his actual story. I'm like, yeah, bitch, tell him. And then he gets in there finally to read a book and he goes, it's funny. I worked my whole life to get into this library with all these books, but all I want to do is get into this one locked door. But I guess that's just me. I'm like, no, bitch! That's everybody! Everybody has morbid curiosity to get into one locked door. Shut up! You're not special! Sit the fuck down!
You're not special.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
Look.
rant over.
Let
I
me speak. I
strongly
want
dislike this book.
everyone wanting to go into that door doesn't fit with the world he's in.
Oh, everybody, this is Casper.
Hello.
Yeah, the mysterious voice that. Yeah.
The mysterious voice you're hearing is.
I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
Coffee Lord
for
Casper.
forthright right now. There is nothing any of you can say to change my mind on that. I'm just like I'm listening, but like I so staunchly hate this character that it doesn't matter.
Don't worry,
That's
I'm
fine.
not gonna try to argue.
I am so happy that you have such a dissenting opinion. I like it's good. It's good to like have someone who like can pick it apart and tell us the flaws. There's nothing wrong
Because
with
not
that.
everybody's gonna love a book that a lot of other people love.
I gave you the stuff I liked. I liked.
Yeah, sure.
I
Sure,
thi-
there
I
are
like
some
some
good
stuff.
aspects. There are some good
Yeah,
aspects.
but like you know, you
like-
liked him being poor and Tarbian, and you
Yeah.
liked him. You liked Ambrose, like you know, essentially fucking making his life hell, right? But even
Yeah.
there, like we see, he gets the better of Ambrose, like
I
most
know
of the
he
time.
always fucking wins. Oh my god.
But it's not. But it's like, it's not forever. I'm waiting. He definitely has soured royalty against him. Soured the nobility.
I had to
against him.
look up at when I started reading this, and I got to some of the stuff where like my eyes were rolling in the back of my head. I had to Google like, are you supposed to like him? Like, is this? Am I supposed to be rooting for him? Because I actively hate him, and people were like, you know, I don't like him. I do like him. You know, it's pretty split. You know, so I didn't feel crazy. I know that some people don't like him, but
But do people hate him as much as you?
no, I think I'm the person who hates him the most. But the number one thing that people kept saying is like, if you don't like him in this book, do not read the second book.
Yeah.
That he gets worse.
It's just
There's just no shot.
There's just more. There's more of it. It's the same character. Like he continues to oh, he's gonna go fight some big strong dude. Guess what? He kills him. Guess what? He's gonna go face this really tough trial that really he should never be able to pass. He passes.
I don't think
Like,
there's a plot. I mean, as a narrative like critique too, like his parents dying and him going to school is not a plot. Him wanting to learn about the Chandrian and barely learning anything is not a plot. Like so much of it like just was a drag to me. Let alone every time he's talking about something that he's done, it's like I just groan. Anyways, I'm
At
done.
least you finished the book. You
I
know,
absolutely finished it.
like that's
Sure.
a plus considering how strongly
you
your feelings
disliked it.
are
Yeah.
against it, and like
Sure.
I totally, maybe not as strongly, but I definitely agree with a lot of your points. But like I ended up at the end, like like the 3 chapters at the end just like pulled me back in.
we talking about like what happens in? I wrote it down. Trebon.
Yeah, and more like when he meets that mysterious girl. Is it Ari?
Ari, yeah.
Yep, Ari.
Yeah.
Oh, can I add in?
Yeah.
I liked Ari Elias as who's a favorite character. While we're
She's your
talking about
favorite
her.
character?
Yeah, cause I don't know, just kind of like her like gentle nature and her like kind of unique relationship with him. I thought she was an interesting character. It adds kind of like a tenderness to the story. So.
What do you think happened to her? Is my question.
She has her own novella,
Oh,
which
so
is
an Ari
book 1.5 is her novella.
The Slow Regard of Silent Things is the name of it.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I kind of liked her a lot.
She has
and Bast has his own book as well.
I've got that on my shelf to read.
Have you got the new version or the all-in-one version?
I don't know.
Okay, because Bast's story was originally written as a novella with like 10 other people, how they all put their book stories into one book type thing. And then instead of releasing book 3, he decides to go, I'm going to write a story about Bast, based on the one that I wrote already.
Oh, wow.
Dick. Yeah, so that got released last year.
Yeah.
And that was Bast's story that, yeah.
Okay.
All right, so what were you saying,
Continue.
Annie, about the last 3 chapters? You really liked
the last 2
You
chapters
liked Ari.
really pulled me in. Yeah, because Ari, I like her mysteriousness. Obviously, I'll probably learn more about her, like either reading a summary of the book or the book. But because she just like he is finding a place to practice his what does he play? A lute.
Yep.
He plays the lute, and he finds this secluded area over the courtyard or something, which is why I chose a tree, because he's always talking about a tree.
Yep.
Fair.
So I was like, oh, I'll just do a tree. So he's practicing his lute, and then like she just like appears or something, and over time she's like a shy stray dog, where it takes time to get to know her and to start a conversation with her, and even like he does give her food and everything, and clothes, but she seems to not like that. Like she doesn't wear the clothes. But she lives in the underground, or the underneath.
Underthing. The underthing.
The underthing. And so we're all like, what is that? And then finally, at the end, we get to find out what it is, and that intrigued me even more, because I'm like, oh, there's this cool, mysterious part of the school that's hidden, or has been built over. And there's all of these hallways and secret rooms, and still filled with like stuff, which I thought was really cool. And then he finds the rumored secret entrance to the Arcanum.
Well, to the library, right?
Or to the library. Which I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to explore more here, and see like what other secrets does the school have? What are they hiding? I just thought that was so cool.
I also
wasn't interesting.
I really liked the part about the sort of like the insane asylum that they have on campus.
Right, and they were like, how, like if he were to tell people about Ari, she would be 100% sent there.
Yep.
Yeah.
She would. And
we don't want that for her.
No, I mean she would not respond well to being locked in a place for crazy people. But what crazy person does? Like nobody responds well to being locked up. It's
right.
And so he's trying to protect her, which I find like that part I find to be pretty noble. He's trying, but it's also selfish, right? Because we don't really know what's wrong with her, besides the fact that she's probably a cracked student who
Exactly.
who ended up there, and she's she's managed to swirl herself away underneath this school and stay hidden.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously she's resourceful. She's not dying, but she's certainly not living in a lap of luxury. If you look at Elodin's quarters in the crockery, like it's not a bad place to be, but it's probably not, it's not our place to really decide whether she should be there or not. But it's certainly not Kavoth's place either.
And we don't ever find out like how long she's been there,
No,
True.
right?
no.
Yeah. She's just there. She's a part of the school.
Yep. But she's, she's also, what is it? Elodin knows about her, right? Like he at least knows of her, even if like he hasn't been able to make contact with her. Does that happen in this book? He gets to interact with her, or is that in the next book?
That's this one, but very minimal.
Okay, yeah. So, and we see that he does take what's her name from the Medica to go look for Ari after the big like chemical accident happens.
Yeah, that he caused.
No, he didn't cause it. He did not cause it. So he was there, and he noticed that the chemical container was like oddly like moist, wet. It shouldn't be. He's like that looks kind of weird. Is that weird? And Jameson, one of the guys who works there, he's like, yeah, better cold than hot. No, not a big deal. And then later on, when he's like working near it, he hears a gasp and a scream, and he turns around, and there's fluid dripping out of it, and that's when shit hit. The shit hits the fan, and he burns himself saving. I can't remember her name. A girl there, because she's in the corner, like working on a project, and she's like gets trapped by the noxious fumes.
And then it ends up going down the drain, and then he's like, "Oh shit, Ari lives in the drain."
He's like, "Fuck, where does that go? And is she in trouble?" Right? And so I think that part, that's one of his good qualities. There is he does look out for his friends. Like it's one of the things that I think he's too prideful, far too prideful, and he's obviously. Like he talks about the one part where he's like really hard up for money before he goes and borrows from Devi for the first time, and he doesn't want to like let money come between him and his friends, because he has friends who have money. They're not like wealthy as Ambrose, but like Sim has money. He's from a wealthy family. He could have asked for help, but he's like, no,
True.
I won't do that. I'll go get a loan from a loan shark. It's like, I don't think that was the wisest decision you could have made, but okay, sure.
It's your life, man. So, and then like he has like another his titles and stuff come from all of his deeds that he is starting to do along this journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
so we see the bloodless, right, when he gets whipped and doesn't bleed.
Because he took that not magic potion, but he
takes a medicine that like essentially that restricts the
coagulates
the
his skin. Blood.
Yeah.
Oh my
and
god, he
then-
can't even get fucking whipped right. Like he can't even get punished right.
Who hurt
He
you,
doesn't even
Squandy?
read.
Kavoth
This
did.
book.
Kavoth hurt him.
This book
Patrick
hurt
Rothfuss
me.
hurt him.
He's getting punished finally. Like it's and then nope, he gets out of it. He knows how to
I
get out.
feel
of
like his
it.
parents
It's
being
just so
murdered was
Deus
punishment
Ex
enough.
Machina, dude.
Was
That doesn't negate any character development. Just because his parents died doesn't mean that nothing else bad can happen to him. That's fucking crazy.
his parents?
Doesn't give him a hall pass. Huh?
So-
He got the shit.
I suppose he doesn't even really lose access to the library because he finds a new way in.
Right.
He gets
I was waiting for
tricked into
Squandy
getting
to-
kicked out.
Yeah. I mean, Squandy was getting there. But the whole he really like, you know, he should have gotten in a lot of trouble for missing classes and stuff when he went to Traben, but he didn't.
And then he fights
apologized
a
and they were like,
dragon
no big deal. Yeah, he fights a
and
Dracus.
defeats a dragon, a Dracus.
Yep.
Because there was rumor he goes to the town. This is when he rides the horse 1,000 miles, not 1,000, but like 80 miles, 70 miles.
So he's in Imre, the town next to the Arcanum, and he's just having a night out drinking, stumbling on his way back to his room, and he gets attacked by some thugs. He like gets attacked, and you know, one of them actually like cuts him with a knife, and he gets away. He like blinds them. He fucking like, you know, threatens them, and then he goes and hides. He hides down by the docks, and he hears a conversation. He has this fucking nasty habit of listening in, eavesdropping, and he hears a conversation about this wedding up in Traben that became a massacre. Like, and he's like, "Oh shit!"
One is dead.
And there was blue fire, and he's like, "Fucking Chandrian."
I guess there's is a fair thing to mention that throughout this entire book, he encounters Denna.
Denna, yeah.
Denna,
Yep.
Every
Diana.
now and again, she will appear, and he is absolutely captivated by her.
Yeah. I didn't mention her early on in the outline when he first meets up with her when like on the road to Imre to the Arcanum,
Right.
Like, because he first becomes infatuated there with her, but like while he has this sort of like very childish reaction to her actually like, you know, smiling at another boy, which is
He gets
there
a
you go,
little
Squandy.
jelly.
Right there. He didn't get his way right there. She rode all
There
day
you
with
go.
the other boy, but he gets totally overshadowed by him like borrowing that boy's lute and playing it very beautifully, and everybody's like, "Oh wow," and you know, like
He's
so
like,
he,
I can play the lute too. Well,
yeah, exactly,
he doesn't, but-
exactly, and like she's very much of a small detail in that part of it. Like you can see
And
the beginnings of his love for her.
I have
think
to
that's-
say though, like as soon as we got to Kavoth explaining to Chronicler about like the woman who like changed his life, I was
You
like,
can talk
son of
about
a
Bass.
bitch, it's gonna be that girl. It's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be that girl from the wagon. I knew it.
the wagon.
I love how Bass describes her though. He's like, she's got a crooked nose. He's
She's
like,
got a crooked
"What?"
nose.
She's got a crooked nose. It's just something
I
I
almost
noticed.
feel like
It's
the
like,
entire time Bast is like, well, she's not as beautiful as me.
yeah, I love Bass for that.
That's funny.
But I
And I
knew it
think
was
I've-
gonna be her, and she's just like that mysterious, manic pixie dream girl
Mhm.
Her
that
character
is
annoys me.
sprinkled out throughout this whole story.
Not great.
And yeah,
think-
like he'll just randomly encounter her.
I think a big reason why he liked her a lot too is because she's like a musician, a singer too, and like he grew up with like
Oh,
music
yeah, and
arts
that's
stuff like that. So that's
But
kind
she
of what
wasn't
drew him
in
to
the
her.
beginning, right? He was infatuated with her before that.
It
True.
wasn't until
That really helped.
he was trying to prove himself at the tavern by
Mhm.
playing that song,
Mhm.
and she joined him in singing, and he's like,
Yeah.
that's
What
my
really drew him
angel,
to her. Yeah,
It's my Eluin. Yep.
the music.
my Elohim.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and obviously that part is like, and then he searches the whole tavern for her and can't find her, and then they chance upon each other, and then it turns out she's actually on a date with one of his friends, and he's like, "Fuck."
Shit.
I just hate that book 2 doesn't answer any of the questions I have after book 1.
I mean,
About Denna.
No, about the
Or
whole,
Leave a lot
in
of-
the
general.
whole,
It leaves a lot of
everything.
cliffhangers.
that's what, like that's what I keep saying. Like book 3 is gonna be, it's impossible.
Has to be a
Like,
lot of
there's
wrap
so
up.
many
It's
fucking,
impossible. Yeah.
There's so many fucking questions between the first two books Like, I don't see how he can do it, answer all of them. And I think Squaddy's probably going to be like, well, he can't. He can't fucking answer them. He'll just be like, you know what? He's the fucking magical wizard boy of the world. There's your answer. Done.
A nice clean.
Nice, clean answer. And
Yeah.
there
So, of
are
course-
some really interesting parts in the second book, I will say.
Okay.
He definitely, you know, he fights different enemies. He definitely he has some new challenges.
Well, the first one, we don't even, at least for me, what was it? The first couple chapters, they're fighting like the spiders, the scare or
Oh,
um,
the
Scarlet.
Scary?
the Scrael.
Scrael, the
Scrael.
Scrael. And so that's like our first introduction of like what people will consider or what this world says are demons.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And so
And
yeah,
and he says they're not demons, right? And like Bass is like,
Well,
in
he's-
Chronicler, like they're not demons, but
doesn't he do that on purpose so he doesn't want them to freak out?
no.
I thought it was a crowd control kind of thing.
At that point, he was sort of in shock. I think that this guy walked in and sort of dropped his Scrael on his table, and he was like, "The fuck?" And he, seeing that, he was like, "Okay, well, now I have to deal with that problem." It's very much a like he can't keep these like fucking redneck nobodies in the middle of nowhere from thinking it's a demon. Like, there's no way. These people see this black rock spider monster, and they're like, demon, done.
Demon.
And
That there's a demon.
he doesn't have any, like, he's dealing with, like, trying to be hiding, but also, like, knowing way too fucking much about things, right? Like, you know, every time he, like, slips up in the inn, he's like, he turns to Bass and says, you know, tell them I broke my knee as a guard on a trade caravan. I'm gonna go lay down. Like what the fuck? Okay, that part he's like, he always has an answer for this shit and then runs away, and it's that part definitely annoyed me.
Well, and
Okay.
he not finally, but he gets humbled at the end too when the
I don't
I
know
was
what
reading
that's
some-
called. The
like a
monster and the
skinwalker or
human, the
something.
skinwalker, yeah.
yeah. So like the skinwalker arrives and he tries to set it on fire,
Yeah.
but he fails.
His magic
doesn't work. Yeah, and then Bast tells Chronicler, "Don't talk about it."
Yeah, don't ask about his magic because it doesn't work, and don't get him to play music because it's just gonna make him sad. It's like, Bast, stop fucking, you know. Do you want us to get the story or not?
And like that's the whole twist at the end when we find out that why Chronicler is here is because of the rumors that Bast has been spreading.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So Bast wants Kvoth to be himself. Kvoth has retreated into this character of an innkeeper. And like Bast says, like, you know, the first month, you know, the innkeeper was a mask. Now he is the innkeeper. You know, he's like, you wear a mask too long, you become that mask. He's like, and I need your help to make him back into what he once was, and you're gonna do it for me. He's like, Bass is like very, very direct. He's like, you're gonna fucking do it. Like, you think you can run away? No, you'll never find love. You'll never, you know, I will hunt you down. You will never enjoy, you know, a sweet breath ever again if you cross me on this. I was like, God
And
damn, Bast.
we learn earlier that Bast is a fae.
Yep. This part cracked me up. So Bass is a fae, right? So like when Chronicler first finally glimpses him as he is, so I don't quite understand that part, but he's like, he saw him for what he was. Like, instead of boots, he has hooves. And he's like,
Yeah.
he's of the fae. He's like, he seems like almost like a satyr or something along those lines. But it's really funny because later on when they're trying to like make up an excuse for as for why Chronicler is in the inn and all the like regular townspeople come in to have their nightly beer or whatever. He's like, oh yeah, Bast got sick a year ago and he really wanted to have a will, and he's like, and to my master I give my best pair of boots should they fit him. I'm like, fucking, you don't have boots, you shithead. What is this?
You know, boots.
And,
You
and
liar.
whatever pants that fit him. I was like, that's fucking messed up, dude. Like,
So I'm like, at first when it was like revealed that Bast was like the orchestrator, before he goes into like tell Chronicler like, you're only going to highlight my master's
yeah, don't ask him about the bad
achievements,
Yeah.
and we're not going to talk about any of his failings. So before I even heard that, I was like, oh my god, like Bast is evil or something. Because as he's talking about like, you're only here because I lured you here. I planted these rumors all about town, and I was like, oh my god, is Bast evil? Like, that could be cool, but
So that's something to think about, though, right? The Fae, we learn a lot more about the Fae in the second book, and how the Fae is neither good nor evil. It's the Fae is just the Fae, and they are mysterious and wild and magical, but they are beyond our understanding in many ways, and there's like, we don't really know Bast's intentions, like what his goals are, or why is he training under Kavoth? Like, why
is he his apprentice? Yeah.
What
True.
what is a Fae apprentice to a human for? It doesn't, like, that part's never explained in book 1 or 2.
Yet another unanswered question.
Eh,
True.
I hate the fact he said it was a trilogy. It needs to be 5 books. He should have spread it out better.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear more about him being in, like, as a child being poor on the streets. I wanted that to be more in depth. I wanted to learn more about the characters he was with there rather than. And I mean, it felt long when I was reading it, but I've read it so many times that it's like, no, it's actually quite short
I really like, though,
in comparison.
the character of Trappist. I think Trappist is a very interesting and endearing character in Turkey.
Yep.
oh dear. Can you hear that?
Barely.
A little bit.
Barely.
Sorry, there's like thunder. There's a very loud
Oh, really?
clap of thunder. I was like,
I'm jealous.
And so, I guess, like, sort of getting close to wrapping this up. We see that Kavoth has some trials in school that he mostly gets over with. Eladin throws him off a roof. Well, asks him to step off a roof, and he does it, much to Eladin's surprise. He does have trouble with Kilvin because he's doing too much. He's taken on too many courses, and so Kilvin actually like bans him from work for a little while, which was only his only source of income at the time. We also see that when the second term comes around, he doesn't have any money. He doesn't have the money to pay for a second term, and so he goes to get a loan from Devi, and we learn that Devi is a former member of the Arcanum, and she
has a lovely collection of books.
yeah, she has her own little collection. I mean, she's not, I don't think she's allowed to go back for whatever reason, but we don't know why. I can't imagine like an educational institution like the Arcanum preventing graduates from coming back, which leads me to believe Devi did not leave on good terms. But she stays nearby, right? She still has.
Yeah, she's like what, the next town over?
Yeah. She's over the bridge in Imre, and she loans out money. Typically, it sounds like to Arcanists, who will give her a few drops of blood so that if they come up short, she has the means to track them down and collect her money. Which gives Kavoth the fucking heebie-jeebies, but I'm like, it makes total sense, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
And that's, like, I think the other, he borrows money from her for the first term. She's like, I only loan 4 talents. That's the lowest I'll go. He's like, I only need 2. She's like, well, fucking tough titties. And then
We'll go somewhere else then.
He's like, I'm gonna go find another option. And then he falls in love with his fucking cheap ass loot in town. He's like, all right, I want the 4 talents so I can buy this loot, and he does. And so he starts playing, and he gets his talent pipes and yada yada yada, and he gets in trouble again with the college because he makes up a song about Ambrose with the help of a local sort of noble who loves the arts. And they sing it one time and make this lovely, very memorable tune that everybody sort of uses to annoy the shit out of Ambrose, which it's he gets punished again, but it's like no big deal because apparently at this point in time I think he likes getting whipped.
It makes him more famous. It
it
gets
adds
his name out there again.
right.
Or
Gets more money.
There's
so
always
many
points
rumors
where I'm like, if you would just fucking keep your head fucking down and just do what you're supposed to and stop annoying the piss out of Ambrose, your life would be so much easier. Like if he
Ambrose
hadn't-
and Aaron.
Yeah, Ambrose and it. But I mean, if he stopped picking fights with Ambrose, he could have found a patron. If he'd found a patron, his life would have been easier, right? Like there's so many places where he just fucking his inability to keep his mouth shut just makes things worse. It's not.
But
that
it
he
is
can't-
sort of pointed out that Ambrose forces himself onto women.
Yes,
That's
Ambrose
true,
is
yeah.
a
So
woman.
at what point does that go from being harmless to harmful? So I think
No, so the point at the very beginning when he's like when he gets in trouble and gets kicked out because he Ambrose is like holding fella by the neck. Ambrose is a
Yeah.
shithead. Like I'm not saying he's not a shithead, but later on when Kvoth has they're doing the lottery for the next term and they got to go in front of the masters, and he has a time slot on like the next to last day or whatever, and he's like fuck it, I can sell this and make some money because I can't go fucking study anyways. And Ambrose is coming over and gonna pay him good money for that time slot.
yeah.
And he fucking goads him, and it's like, dude, you could have made some money here. There's no skin off your back. Just make the trade. Let Ambrose be a dick. Move on. But he can't. He can't keep his mouth shut. That pissed me off because I'm like, that's just
Look,
annoying.
how old is Koth at this point?
15.
Isn't he only like 15 or 16, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
He's
around.
15.
Yep. Ambrose.
'Cause I struggle to
yeah,
remember
17,
what I
18.
was like back then.
A
You know,
know-it-all.
Because the way you act to bullies
annoying.
and how you act as a person is completely different. Whereas I was usually the one being bullied, so
Yeah.
I just stood there and took it. But that's what you do when you're 5 foot tall, and they're
Oh.
6 foot tall.
Yeah. And so I think there's multiple times where obviously Kvoth just makes his own life harder, and it doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense at all, to me. But then moving on from that, we know that Ambrose sends somebody to kill him, and that's finally sends somebody to actually kill him and just get him out of the way. And so he ends up, hiding out, learning about Trayvon, gets on a horse, rides 70 miles in a day, and
We find out that somebody discovered, what was it, like a pot that illustrated the Chandrian. All
Yep.
7 of them, right?
they were all on the pot, all of them. Plus, there was more details on the pot, and he essentially
They came and destroyed the town.
Yeah, they came and killed everybody at the wedding because the natural assumption was that the father who dug up whose people dug up the vase, he had been telling people about it. Oh yeah, there's this beautiful vase. It's got all these figures on it, whatever. And they went and killed everybody who knew anything about the vase.
And
Because,
then
there's that one question where Kvothe is like, why not just like come after the wedding and just kill the couple and destroy the vase? Like, why kill everybody? It's like, because they have to kill everybody who knows anything.
Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
And
I still
he
want to know more about
Countess
them.
a
Damn it.
dragon.
Yeah. It's not a real dragon.
Like a
Close
big
enough.
lizard.
It's
Close
a big
enough.
lizard, right? And
I count it as a dragon.
yeah, so they are. I like the cyclical nature of the dragon part though, because the dragon
me
is
too.
a Trachis, and the only reason Kvothe knows anything about it is because of a book written by the chronicler.
Yep.
Yep.
So-
The mating.
Yeah, the mating
The
habits
mating.
of Dracus.
Yep.
Yeah.
In which he was very disappointed to learn that dragons weren't real. And you know, he and Dinah are out in the woods looking for her patron after the red wedding of this world.
Of this book, yeah.
Yeah, and they see, you know, this fucking fire, and they see shit going on up in the distance. They see the fires coming towards them. They're like, what the fuck? And so they climb up on a waystone, and just when they hear it climbing up the hill, and they see that it's a Dracus, they're like, oh, okay. The fires in the distance actually weren't that wasn't the Chandrian, and the Chandrian. So they're like trying to piece together all this stuff with like this fucking big dragon in the woods, and the Chandrian killing the farm. The dragon makes blue fire, but things don't add up. The dragon was not at the wedding. And so after they get down, after the next morning, they go off into the woods and they find a drug making facility. I'm going to call it that. Essentially, they find where people have like set up this outpost in the middle of the woods to create
It's like moonshine.
Dinner resin.
dinner resin. Yeah, it's like
It is moonshine.
the sweet eaters fucking drug of choice. And they're like, what the fuck is going on here? And they find that the dragon has actually managed to kill the people that were working there, and has been eating the trees and getting high as fuck. And they're like, this is weird. Okay, sure. And they start putting it together, but like only after Denna has taken a substantial taste of the drug.
Accidentally.
Yeah, she thought it was candy. I'm like, you stupid bitch. What
Oops.
are you doing?
You stupid bitch.
Why would you just eat random shit out of a bucket in the woods? What is wrong with you?
It
She
was
was
like they were
hungry.
in a cellar, and she's just like, "What's this random stuff? I'm gonna put it in my mouth."
Yeah,
Okay.
first reaction, great idea.
Obviously, she didn't go to the
Idiot.
Arcanum. And so, next thing we know, like, she's very out of it. Right? She's like, and he's trying to give the dragon like an extra strong dose of the drug to try to kill it. But in doing so, they realize that tonight is the night of like the festival, and the town of
The
Treason
dragon is attracted to
is lit up,
flames
yeah.
and light.
Yeah, lit up by the festival lights, and heads off towards town. And now Kvothe has to like figure out what the fuck he's gonna do, because Denna is very very drugged up still, but she's resting, and he needs to go do something about this dragon before it kills everybody in town. So he sets off to do that, right? And we know that he uses sympathy to kill the dragon. He pulls down a giant iron wheel on top of it, and some townsfolk people see him do this and assume that he is, some
A bull in the grate.
yeah, the next, right? And Tabalin the Great. And so then he wakes up in the tavern, in whatever, and he's like, have you seen my cousin? Looking for Denna, whatever. And they're like, nope. And he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And they're like, well, you need to talk to the people and
The constable.
the constable. That's what it is, the
Yeah.
constable. And They're like, no, you did great things for us. Thank you very much. We know what to do. We buried it and burned it. And he's like, you did what? Because the Dracus was probably like 200 years old, and its carcass alone would have been worth a fortune. But they fucked it up. So I don't know why he couldn't just dig it back up though. Like that's the thing. Is like, yes, parts of it are probably charred beyond reason, but its scales are probably still down there and worth a shit ton of money. So.
Sure. Probably.
But he didn't want to fucking deal with the people, and so he left town. Like, this is so stupid. There's still money in that fucking hole.
And he needs money.
And he needs
That's
money.
what she said.
Sure, he's
Right?
broke.
Shut up. And so he heads back to the Arcanum, and he makes apologies for disappearing like he did. Again, he doesn't tell anybody what he's seeing. And this part is what bugs me the most, right? He, at one point, talks to the, damn it, what is his name? The head of the library guy, whatever, librarian. He's like, you seem to be interested in, like, fairy tales. He's like, yeah, I am. He's like, well, that's okay, but you need to be careful because that's not really becoming of a member of the Arcanum. He should have stopped right there and be like, look, Chandrian killed my fucking parents, and I'd really like to know more about them if you don't mind. Just being honest at any one point with him would have probably been huge, right? And now, guess what? The Chandrian were like 70 miles away from here the other day. So they've been within probably a 300-mile radius of the Arcanum twice in the past couple years. I'd like to know more about them because they're not mythical creatures. Thank you very much. Like, I don't know why he struggles
in
with
real
this.
life.
And you were talking about Master Lauren?
Yes.
Master Lauren is his name, yeah.
Yeah, the Master
Lauren
Archivist.
Master Archivist is a learned man. He can put two and two together. Like he's not an idiot. And if he were to present the facts of, look, I've met them. They killed my family. Trust me. Like this isn't some shit I made up. You can look up. I'm sure eventually word about his parents' death made it back to Lord Greyfallow. I'm sure of it. Like there's so many things that if he just like connect the dots for some very smart people who could help him, his life would be easier. I don't understand it.
My thought was always that he still has the fears of a child, that if he says it like that they'll come after him.
I don't know.
I can see that. Like maybe he reverts back to where
He'll fear them.
yeah,
Sure.
he
That's
goes
fair.
I
back
could
to that
see it.
place in his
But this
mind.
is the chance for character growth, right? Like, come on.
I think he should just ask bloody his friend for money. That would have solved everything.
Yeah, if he'd asked
That would
Sim
have
for money
made the book
early
a lot
on-
shorter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is also true.
I mean,
But-
yeah, I thought the ending part definitely grabbed me again because I'm like, I want to explore more of the underneath, and then
Yep.
as much as she annoys me, I want to know what Denna's deal is.
Me
Yeah.
too.
Well, I
Um,
still questioned at the end of that one, like, if her patron is with
A
the Chandrian.
Chandrian?
I believe
Yeah.
it.
Well, maybe.
Or she's part of it.
Ooh,
Like,
maybe.
there's...
That's a good theory.
I don't think she is. But I think he
But
is.
he might. I think
I
he
But
think-
she could be the daughter
I
of
think
one or
she is.
something.
Lord Ash. I don't think they work that way. If I'm being honest.
You don't think the Chandrian can spawn?
No. Because if they could, and they've been around as long as they have, why wouldn't they have already?
Sure.
Maybe they have, and they're the sons and daughters of the originals.
Maybe. That's possible.
Sure. You don't know. There's lots of theories.
Stop with
that.
your fucking questions, Casper. My brain doesn't need this right now.
Now you're making us really think. It's too
But
late
there's
for
Well, I
all
mean,
of
it's
that thinking.
definitely-
It's only 11 a.m. for me, and I'm fresh as
Yeah.
daisy.
I hate you so much right now.
At the end of the day for us.
So the there's another book,
Sure.
right? We
Yeah.
and I want to go ahead and give you a little bit of information about that book because
Is there more like plot to the next one?
I mean, is there more plot than is in this
Well,
book?
because it was
Hey
like
there!
more. It was like more character
there!
growth, like introduction to people in this one. So I'm.
No,
guessing
the
that
second
this
one's the
would be
same
more
thing.
like-
You find out nothing, know nothing, and
Oh.
left with more questions.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
not,
so-
that's
so,
not helpful. Okay.
So book two has has us realizing something. So, we know, we as the readers know, that Kavoth has fucking pissed off Ambrose. So much so that Ambrose has actually tried to kill him once. We know this. And Ambrose goes back for another semester, and he simply can't afford it. And he's really just, despite having called up the name of the wind, that doesn't make him rich. He's still, he needs a break. He needs to find a patron. And so book 2 has him on the path to a patron, and leaving the school for a little while. And he goes into the service of a man of royalty, and goes to do great lengths for him. And we actually get some links back to his own lineage, his mom's family at some point in the second book. And we also we do get some more interactions with the Chandrian. There's also more world building. We come into contact with all sorts of mercenaries and people from other parts of the world. There's some really good stuff that happens there. I mean, if you don't like the first book, you're not going to like the second book. I think that's a given. It's the same
Squandy will not
character.
Be
No, I'm not telling Squandy to read it. But I'm telling everybody else, if you didn't enjoy the first book, if you didn't think it was fun to read, yes, the first part and the last part are good, because that's some really he's got some, Rothfuss does some really good parts in the beginnings and ends of both stories. He ties it together really well. He does that with the second book. Read the first chapter, read the last chapter, and move on. That's all I'm going to tell you, if that's what you like. But if you liked the first book, you'll probably like the second book.
Enjoy. We need questions answered, so I'm gonna have.
You're not going to get any questions answered.
Yeah, read book 3.
But
that's going to happen in a book that's never going to get written, I think.
really,
Another.
Which he apparently
People
wrote them
answer
30
one
years
after
ago, so...
Yeah. I've got.
so I guess I don't know if I will read the second one.
I'm not telling you to. I wanted everybody to read the first book and get a taste for it, and I'm super actually happy that we have some dissenting opinions and people don't love it, because it gives me new perspective on a book that I do enjoy, and I still love it. I still think it's a great book, but I can definitely enjoy the perspective of folks who don't like it, and that's.
I guess the main part I don't love is I don't like him as a character, and I don't like all these unanswered questions that are maybe not gonna be ever answered. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know if they'll ever be answered. There's a lot more questions to get opened up in the second book, because there's just there's so much more world building and story stuff and things that tie back to the Chandrian and things that tie back to Kavoth, and there's a lot. I have both of the novellas that Casper mentioned, the one about Ari and the one about Bast. I don't know which one it is about Bast. I'll have to look, Casper, but if you can tell me how to tell, that would be good. Yeah, my wife bought it for me this year for my birthday. And so.
is it 10 books in one, or is it a single book?
It's not. It looks like the same size as the other book.
Okay, so it'll be the single rewrite.
Okay.
The other one's done in 10 authors writing 10 novellas into one book.
Is that good? Is that one better? Have you read them both?
This one's better. It's more in depth. The other one he wrote as I've been asked to do something, and this is.
I mean, of the two versions of the Bass book, which one's better?
Oh, yours is better. Yeah.
Okay.
Yours will be identical to it, but with more.
Good. Cool. Awesome. Then I will be glad to read it.
What a wild ride this book was.
It was very interesting.
Leaves me with more questions than answers, and that's fine if it's part of a series, but then it's also disappointing because who knows when the final book will be written, or if it will be written.
So we may never know, and that's the aggravating part.
Here's a question. If someone were to produce a TV show from these books, knowing what you know about these books, would you watch the TV show?
I have
Like
a
how
theory.
we
They have
watch-
tried multiple times, and every single time it falls through. And I legitimately think it's because audiences hate Kvoth. I think that they can't write him. I think that they can't write the protagonist in a likable way, and so that production companies are just like, no, never mind. Because it's been tried like 4 or 5 times.
Has it? See, I didn't know that.
That's
Okay.
really.
Yes.
Oh,
Have you
interesting.
watched the Sword of Truth books show? Has anybody watched that?
No.
No.
No. Okay.
I was gonna say, yeah, no. After book 1, it actually signed a movie deal, a TV show, and a video game, and none of
Oh,
them
wow.
ever eventuated to anything.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's why we haven't gotten book
That's
3 because the
hilarious,
motherfucker keeps
'cause
doing other things.
I wonder if it never passed like you
Yeah,
know when
I-
they do like
I
audience
wanna believe-
trials.
I want to believe Squandy, but I've seen so much fucking shitty television that it's like really
True.
hard for me to believe they wouldn't just fucking turn it out anyways.
That's
Man,
true.
they destroyed
That's
the Winx
true.
Club. Surely Netflix will pick it up, right?
Yeah, probably.
Netflix will pick up anything.
No, because Netflix is all
however,
into
before
their
you
own
s-
IPs now. Go ahead.
It's true. I was gonna say before you go, I posted in the Come and Chill chat, the Jackass song got written into an actual song, alongside Patrick Rothfuss. Someone else sang and convened with him, so I posted it there.
The Ambrose song.
Yeah, it's a real song.
Oh my god,
Oh, interesting.
Oh my god.
that's
Okay,
funny.
I'll have to check that out. Thank you very much. Yeah, so that was The Name of the Wind. We will very likely not be picking up the second book as part of the book club on another month, but next month is Annie. You want to tell us about
Next month is Myth and Legend, which I am intrigued by because, you know, a lot of times Myth and Legend books, if you're familiar with it, like you like fantasy gendered, I like Myth and Legend books and a lot of sci-fi. But so you hear a lot of like Greek mythology. So you've got books like, is it Circe?
Circe.
Circe?
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 Yep.
I never know how to pronounce that one.
Circe.
You've got that one. There's a lot of like the author Natalie Haynes and Madeline Miller do a lot of
Thank you for the 20 long months of
Thank you for the
subscribing.
20 long months of subscribing. 20 months.
those authors do a lot of books in set with Greek mythology, and they're very good. Like which was the one about
Hey, mister. Hey, mister.
Achilles, Song of Achilles. That was a very popular
Oh.
one, which was great. But I definitely have been trying to put more books on the suggestion box that are different than
I'll
just
try
Greek
to add some in
mythology.
tomorrow.
Yeah, they're hard. I hate that they're so hard to find, but
Yeah.
so for the
So
month
I had
of,
never heard of this genre before, and
Really?
I dug a little deeper into, like, I've been reading about what it is, and
Mhm.
there obviously were older books in that style, but it's really popular now. Anyways, I've learned a lot about the genre.
I
and
feel like it's been
it's very fascinating.
yeah.
For multiple reasons. Not all
That is
good.
interesting.
Oh, good.
I think like where I started getting more into it was when I read Song of Achilles. And then I learned that the author, there's like 3 or 2 that really go into Greek mythology. And Song of Achilles, I guess, could almost kind of be like a romance ish. So that's not on the suggestion list. Well, I'm curious to know the bad parts, Aaron, or like the.
Yeah, that you found out of why.
But
Right
we can
now?
discuss that later. We can
Yeah,
discuss
I was gonna
it
save
later.
it for the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us during that episode.
I do want to throw
But
out
yes.
one other thing related to Fantasy
Mhm.
Month, because this was Fantasy Month. The book that you had suggested, Squandy, NPC. I don't know if you ever got a chance to check that one out. I'm really enjoying that one.
Is it
I
my
didn't suggest
suggestion?
it.
That was
I
mine.
thought you
What book
was
I
it?
thought Squandy suggested it. Okay, yes. Katie. Hey, did you read it?
That was I haven't read it, so that was, I guess, by proxy, Eddie. Eddie has recommended that book.
I'm about halfway through it, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
But it was
What's it called?
so
NPC. Like non-player character.
Yep. Who by?
I don't know. Let me pull it up on my phone.
I was gonna say, is it still in the
It should still be on the
book club
sheet.
listing?
Yeah.
It is by. Come on, pull it up. I was just listening to it.
Hype Train has entered the station and is at level 1. Entered the station and is at level 1. Thank you. Thank you for the 14 long months of subscribing Kiki's _ world. Subscribing Kiki's
Oh,
_
here it
world.
is. NPCs. I don't have the author though. I just wrote
Drew
down
Hayes.
Yeah, Drew Hayes.
the description.
It's it starts off with like you're like listening to like a tabletop session, which is like these like people sitting around and they're playing this like D&D type game, and they're talking. The DM keeps telling them that they're trying this new realism module, and not to spoil it, but it's right in the beginning. The whole party dies because of the module. They're like, you made some stupid fucking choices and you all die. And then the story picks up from the NPC's perspective of the people that were there when these like adventurers died, and it's just like they're sort of shoved into the role of like having to go do the job for the adventurers, for fear that if they don't, that like the mad king who had sent for them might come by and just wipe off the whole town. It's like, so they're like, well, fuck. And it's not a very like it's only like 7 hours, 8 hours audiobook, not super long.
Okay.
And I've really enjoyed it. Like the character building has been really fun, and it's like 4 characters together as a group.
You say not long, but book 5 is 24 hours.
It's like Name of the Wind.
Yeah, I brought it up. So it's free on Audible for book 1, and then book 2 to 5 get longer in length each one.
Wow.
Nice.
I'm excited. I like free books.
Free is great.
I didn't know there was multiple
Sure.
books. I'm excited to know that.
There you go. And they get longer.
So Eddie suggested it to me, and then I was reading the description, and I was like, it reminds me of Freerun.
Oh.
Similar, yeah. Like what happens behind the scenes. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah, in that
Okay.
aspect, not in like all aspects, but yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
cool.
I do like
for me,
Freerun a lot.
It was a total TPK, total party kill. Yep. Yeah, I just wanted to share out Fantasy Month. That was a book that was on our list, and I ended up like picking it up to listen to it simply because we were driving to Boston today, and I wanted an audiobook to listen to for the drive there
Fair.
and back, and it was awesome.
Awesome. Good to know.
That's good to hear. I will let him know that he picked a good one. But so I'm really looking forward to next month because I love
it'll be
myths
different.
and legends.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, the closest thing I could think of was like, because obviously the very there's the young adult like ones that are super
There's a
popular
lot
and
of
have like
them.
TV shows and shit.
Yeah,
Like
It was
Percy
hard to
Jackson.
filter those out.
Yeah, I was like, I really don't want any of those.
they're
'Cause
all like from the CW.
yeah.
Like Percy Jackson and
Which
stuff
which
like that.
don't get me wrong, I love some CW content, but like I'm a big fan of Supernatural.
Yeah.
There's a
The
time
show?
and a place.
I love the
All
show.
100
Yes,
Supernatural.
seasons of Supernatural.
I'm
Yes,
just
the
checking.
show.
It's a great show. Okay.
All
continue.
8,000
Is it not?
seasons.
Is it a
Yes.
movie too?
Yeah. But you know what? It was
No.
still good in all of it. All of
It's
it
just a
was good.
really long. I mean, you could sit down and watch it all,
It's
but
very
end
long.
to end, it would be the longest movie. But anyways, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you for coming to our book club. We're gonna wrap it there. Tune in next month for the book that we choose for Myths and Legends. Please come by the Discord, !Discord in chat. And you can join our book club if you want. You can read along with us, and we would love to have your thoughts and interactions as well. Squandy, I hope you know I love you very much, and I'm so happy that you had a dissenting opinion. I wish you'd liked it, but at the same time, I'm glad you didn't, and that you were able to bring such a contrasting opinion to the conversation. Annie, thank you for leading the charge as usual, and helping organize us here and creating all of our wonderful graphics. Kiki, your dialogue is awesome. I'm glad you were here for it. And Casper, our faceless member of the party today, we appreciate your
Mysterious
input.
voice.
Thank you for coming in and feeding in some more input. I appreciate you all so very much. Thank you for being a part of the book club. And we will
See you
see you
in
next
June.
month. Bye.
May's book choice brought some really great and lively discussion. A heated conversation is always invigorating and gives, sometimes, a new perspective. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you've read Name of the Wind, what are your thoughts on our main character and his journey? Leave your comments below. We would love to hear them. Join us June 26th on Twitch as we discuss American Gods by Neil Gaiman.